we welcome on Luke Johnson, New Orleans Times-Picayune, and, of course, NOLA.com on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson. Luke, we appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Let's just start with Jaxson Dart, and I'll just go ahead and leave that really open-ended for you. Your thoughts on everything that's transpired with his odds and all the smoke this morning.
Yeah, well, I still think that, like, if they are targeting Jaxson Dart, it's going to be trading back into the first round to try to get him and not taking him at number 9. They have such a dearth of young impact players on this team that they can't, like, afford like a coin flip at number 9. Like, they need to really get somebody who's going to make an impact on the team right now and for the next 7, 8, 9 years. So I do think that quarterback is in the cards for the Saints. I would not be surprised at all if they make 2 picks tonight. But I just don't think it's going to happen at number 9. And I don't think it should either. I'm not sold on any of these quarterbacks, even as like a late first round pick, potentially.
Wait, you said trade back there. That is normally sacrilege to Mickey Loomis and the New Orleans Saints.
No, trade back into the first round.
Okay, trade back in. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you why trade back and not just trade back into the first round. Okay, so let's say they do. Let's say they trade back into the first round. Looking at Dart's odds, I mean, his pick position was 24.5. Do the Saints have to get into the 20s from 40 in order to take Dart, or could they do it later in the first round of the draft?
I don't think it's necessarily like they have to get into like the early mid-20s. I think the team that everybody's looking at is the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, Stafford's nearing the end of his career. You look at a player like Dart, who I think he's only 21 years old right now, or he's early 22. He's somebody who you could envision sitting a year or two learning behind a Matt Stafford type. Like you can see why the Rams would be interested there. I think the team really to watch out for is Pittsburgh. They've been connected to Shedeur Sanders this whole time. But they might. It just kind of depends on their draft board. Like they might prefer Jaxson Dart, and if he's gone at 21, then it kind of changes the calculus. And this is all assuming the Saints are all in on Jaxson Dart and not somebody like Tyler Shuck or Shedeur Sanders or somebody like that. So there's just like a lot of different ways this can go in the back, like the late last quarter of the first round. But I think that's where they would have to go to target a bit, because we don't think the Giants or the Browns are going to take a quarterback at 2 or 3, but they own the first 2 picks of the second round. So you'd almost have to get in front of those 2 teams to make sure that you're giving yourself a chance. And those teams might try to trade up too. Yeah. So there's going to be some competition there for it, I'm sure, which is going to drive the price up.
Talking with Luke Johnson. He's on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson. Luke, in your time covering the team, where would you place the anticipation for this pick at number 9, given all the needs for the Saints and, again, all the smoke this morning and into the afternoon? Where would this one rank for you in your time covering the team?
Probably, if it's not first, it's like a tie for first. I remember the Chris Olave pick. That was, I think, number 11 in the 2022 draft. And I think a lot of people anticipated it'd be Chris Olave, but that was like the highest pick they'd had in a long time. And they were still, they were coming off of a down year in 21, but they were still only 1 year removed from like this excellent 4-year run. And you could still see like kind of the bones of the team. So like that one was exciting. And I'd put this one right there with it. It's definitely a lot more exciting than a lot of these back end of the first round type picks they've had, where you just have no idea who's going to be there. This one, I think one of the reasons that makes it really exciting is because they could go any direction with this.
Yeah. So
they could take a lineman, or they could take a tight end, or a running back, or a receiver, or a corner. They could go literally any direction. I think that's why we're seeing like all these mock drafts just kind of all over the place.
So if it's not quarterback or Jaxson Dart at number 9, what do you think the Saints do at 9?
Well, what I think they'll do is I have no idea. Just because of what I just said. They have so many different areas they really need help on this team. What I would do if I were them, obviously depending on who's on the board, but like I love Tyler Warren. There's a certain level of safeness with him that I don't think you're going to get out of somebody like, Micah Walker or, the third or fourth tackle taken in this draft. I think he's going to be a plug and play immediate contributor, not like Brock Bowers level last year, but really, really good player and a 3-down player and somebody you can trust to play wide tight end, or you can move into the slot, or you can put him out wide, or you can put him he played wildcat quarterback at Penn State. And I think with somebody as creative as Kellen Moore calling the offensive plays, I think that's really, really exciting as a possibility. And he's one of kind of 4 guys who, if he's there, I'd be sprinting to the podium. And it's him, it's Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, it's Ashton Genty, who I really don't think is going to be there, and Jalen Walker, the edge rusher from Georgia. I think those 4 guys all have a possibility of being there. They're not all going to be there. Maybe only one of them will be there. But I think one of those 4 guys will be there, and I would be very excited about any of them. I'm less excited, if Will Campbell or Armand Membu slides, I'd be okay with that. But I'm less excited about Kelvin Banks or the 2 Josh tackles, Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly. I'm not as into them as others are. And I'm really looking for somebody who I know is going to be an impact player in the NFL for a better part of the next decade.
Great segue, because tackle is where I was going next. Obviously, with Mickey Loomis announcing on Wednesday that the Saints are not picking up Trevor Penny's 5th-year option, we all knew that tackle was a position of need. How much greater of a position of need is it now in this draft, given that news?
I don't think it's necessarily much higher on their need scale. I don't think there was ever any chance that we're going to pick up the 5th-year option on Trevor Penny. Even if they like the idea of him starting, he's only played at a decent level 1 out of his 3 NFL seasons, and you don't commit $16 million in 2026 to that kind of player. But I don't think that rules him out from being their starting right tackle next year. Now, if they draft somebody, obviously that equation changes a little bit, and I think tackle is definitely a position they could address early in that first-round pick tonight. But I think that them not picking up the 5th-year option is not necessarily a sign that they're ready to move on from him. I think they want to see consistent year in, year out play from him before they're like committing actual money to him. And if you look at the 16th highest paid right tackle in the NFL makes like $10 million a year, which is significantly less than what that 5th-year option would cost them. So, if he turns it around and he's even better than he was last year at right tackle, they could still probably get him for less than what they would be paying for on that 5th-year option. So that's the way I view it. But there's they could draft Membu tonight and say, well, Trevor Penny, you're going to be our left guard, or you're going to be our swing tackle. There's a lot of different ways this can go.
Luke Johnson, the New Orleans Advocate, NOLA.com. Of course, you can find him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson. Luke, we've mentioned it here so far in our chat, but one of the narratives around the Saints in this draft is, you have so many needs, you can't go wrong. So with so many needs, where do the Saints find value in this draft when you look kind of over the course of 3 days?
Well, as of right now, as we're currently talking, they have 3 day 2 picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have 4 top 100 picks in this draft. And this is a draft, you talk to anybody in the league, and they will tell you that there's not like a lot of top end talent in this draft, but it really it flattens out and it kind of stays there for a while. You can get really good players in the 2nd, 3rd round of this draft, guys who can be starting level players for you. Maybe not a bunch of star power, but really good players. And I think that's where they're going to make their hay if they don't trade 2 of those picks to move up into the 1st round, which I feel like is going to happen. The Derek Carr thing was really, really damaging for him because now it almost feels like their hands forced if they want to address quarterback this year. Like if it were me, I would be starting Spencer Rattler this year, seeing what he has, and if he's no good, that's fine. Then you're going to have a top 5 pick next year and a better quarterback class. I just don't think that's the way the Saints are going to go, and it might turn out well for him. But it's also, I think with this quarterback class, it's a lot of risk involved. So they could use those 2 third-rounders and second-rounder to get starting-level players, give them that youth injection they desperately need. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to use those assets to move back up.
Last one for you here, Luke. Again, kind of a more broader perspective. Is there one position that you view on the Saints team that maybe not enough of us are talking about that you view as a bigger need than others might?
Well, I mean, others might feel this way, but they need a starting corner out of this draft. They've got essentially 2 guys on their roster who they know they can count on to play like starting caliber reps. I really like Adam as a depth piece. I don't want to go into the season counting on him as my number 3, especially because as we've seen over and over and over again with these Saints teams that have deep secondaries going into the season. I mean, injuries happen. They had an awesome secondary a couple of years ago, and they had to sign Chris Harris off the street to play corner for them. So they need to be deeper there. And I don't know if that's I don't think that's something I would do at 9. I don't know if there's anybody I like enough at 9. I like Jahdae Barron, but not at 9.
Yeah.
I like Will Johnson, but not at 9. But I do think that there's decent players in the second, third round that can be had that could give them an immediate starting caliber player there.
NFL draft, it gets underway tonight. Saints have the 9th pick. Luke Johnson, of course, covers the team for the New Orleans Advocate, NOLA.com. He's on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson with Hunt every Thursday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Luke, we appreciate the time. As always, enjoy the draft, man.
Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.